Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside my good friend, Father Joe Grimaldi. The Father Joe podcast is proudly supported by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road, east of Telegraph in Southfield. Want to talk to you about the all-new 2019 Lincoln Nautilus. It is something to see and drive. You get an impressive twin-turbocharged 2.7-liter engine with a fuel economy rating of 27 miles per gallon. It's a beautiful, beautiful SUV. 22-way adjustable seats, a Revel audio system, a panoramic Vista sunroof, and an absolutely incredible tech package. Make sure to ask about instant savings during the end of winter savings going on right now. These are specials that are going away. Those savings are available as well on the full lineup of Hoot McInerney Star Lincolns, including the Lincoln MKC. I've been in it a lot, and I love it. Stop on by and make sure you tell them you heard about Star Lincoln on the Father Joe podcast. Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln on 12 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph, or visit starlincoln.com. Golly gosh, I'm excited as heck because Father Joe Grimaldi is back from a delightful trip away, and appears that where you went was a little on the warm side.
It was.
You were called away to visit someone in I believe, the down South Florida region, that area there.
Correct.
Good to be warm again?
Well, I'm glad to be home.
You're glad to be no place like home.
I agree. I loved it, but I'm glad to be home.
Well, as I say around the house here, it's not the heat, it's the stupidity.
Yeah.
But bada boom, bada bing. Try the quiche. We'll be here all week, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Joe and Ken Show. So you had a good time. It's always good to get away and have a little vacation.
It is.
But you have to stay current. You have to continue to stay in contact with the world out there and all of the various things that are going on within
I kept in contact with my boss, for sure.
Two quick questions, and we've discussed this before. When you are called away in a situation like that, and it falls on a Sunday, are you basically going to ask to celebrate at one of the churches in the area? Is that basically how it works? Or can you simply go to Mass?
Yeah, of course you can.
You can?
Yeah, I mean, especially since I was a guest of someone else, and so you do what they do, and if they're going to the 11 o'clock Mass, I'll go to the 11, or if they're 9, I'll go to the 9. And it doesn't mean I have to celebrate. Usually, priests, they like to do their own thing, and they don't need other people up, you know what I mean?
Well, you bring up an interesting question.
Yeah.
So you would prefer to be alone on the altar, for the most part?
Well, that's a strong word, prefer. It doesn't bother me either way, but I'm saying is that it gets somewhat complicated today because you have to produce documentation.
Oh, you do?
Oh, God, yes. You can't just go in and...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that takes time. But, they usually welcome you once you have all the documentation.
Now, will you visit with the priest after Mass just to say, hi, I'm Father Joe Grimaldi?
Yeah. Especially since I'll be doing the wedding.
At that church?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Do you sort of perk up a little bit like I would if I were in the same... Let's say I went to visit a radio station while I was visiting somebody in Iowa. And the guy says, well, I know a buddy who works at the classic rock station. I would say, oh, let's run over there and take a look. I'd love to see how they operate. And it's always kind of interesting. And as soon as you tell another guy that you're a disc jockey from Detroit, they tend to kind of perk up a little bit and preen and kind of give it a little something extra on the old microphone. Now, if a priest sees a visiting priest out in the pews, do you think that he sort of gives it a little extra just to...
Well, I'm going to say this. Most times he has no idea there could be 20 priests there. Because when priests travel... particularly if they're coming from the northern climate, there would be many of them, that we would never know. Okay. And so he usually doesn't know. This particular priest didn't know until after Mass was over with. I had met with his associate the week before, but basically, I think he just went on with his homily. One of the things I do, though, is I try to see what happens there and so on and so forth, and how they manage everything and so on. When you go south in winter, the churches are packed.
Yeah, that's right.
They are packed. I mean, it's like a mega church. literally a mega church. They have to add seating, and because during the summertime it becomes empty.
Hello.
Yeah, but winter. So they always say, they're very proud of the fact that in the northern churches they're not as crowded. Well, that's a no-brainer. Of course they wouldn't be as crowded,
right.
Okay?
Yeah.
If everybody is convening in the South from the various areas like Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan and so on, and they end up in a particular area which is very popular, there's only so many churches in that particular area, right? And if they're practicing Catholics, they'd be at Mass. And so it's going to be like a mega church.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you fail to realize that that's not a normal situation. You have people from all over the United States, if not the world, visiting. So naturally it's going to be crowded. It doesn't mean that the churches up north are lacking. It simply means that it's that time of year when everybody is here, and so they have to accommodate.
You said something interesting about people from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, and all the parts in the Midwest, and a huge amount of people coming down from Canada. I mean, they're like the first ones in and the last ones out. And when it comes to going down south, they truly represent a large group of people. I have a lot of friends that live down south, and they just said the Canadians are usually the first ones in.
It's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
In Hawaii, Maui was the place they like to go.
Well, everybody likes to go to Maui, and you can't blame people for that. That's for sure.
No, they would have all sorts of activity in Maui in certain areas, not everywhere.
Yeah. Going back to what you said up front there, you were saying you wanted to basically see how that particular church and
operated,
that priest operated. Did it seem to run smoothly to you? If you were to
smoothly and very organized, because maybe a lot of people would say, "Wow, it took an hour and a half to do Mass. It shouldn't take more than an hour. What was going on?"
Yeah.
Well, when you have that many people, it just takes a lot more time.
Oh.
And, for example, giving out communion is going to take more time. The hymns is probably going to take more time. Then you had a choir because we were at a special Mass. The 10 o'clock Mass is the Mass that the pastor always likes to say, and therefore it's going to be where a lot of people like to go, and it's the more festive Mass. They have a very beautiful choir that is not only helping the people to sing, but they're also performing. I always say a choir is there to help people worship. However, sometimes some of them want to become opera stars, you know what I mean? Sure. So it was interesting because sometimes the hymns go on a lot longer if they're doing solos. So they did on Sunday. And I think that's because they know they had an audience that was listening, and it was beautiful. But it did take an hour and a half. So some people said, wow, that was a long Mass. Well, you came to it because it would be the long Mass. You know that it's going to be like that. It's the 10 o'clock Mass. That's where the pastor says the Mass. That's where all the activities take place. The choir is there. You have your different deacons. And so... Right. It's going to be. Yeah,
back in the day, I remember, it'd be like, I'm serving the 10 o'clock Mass. Oh, you got the high Mass, eh?
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, people would say, my dad doesn't like to go to that one because that's the high Mass.
The high Mass.
That's the long one.
They like to go to the golfing Mass, which is 7 in the morning, and then they could get out and go golfing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've been a regular at the 7 o'clock, right? The golfers.
I have. I go there a lot.
The golfers' Mass.
They're great people. They won't miss Mass, that's for sure. But
well, they don't want to miss a shot. That's
why. No, they have to keep going.
There must be a heck of a golf course in heaven.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Is it 18 holes? I'm not sure.
So, okay, so it's 90 minutes to beautiful church, great presentation. How about the priest's homily? Did you enjoy it?
I thought he was excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah, he did a great job.
Did he?
And the way he presented.
Did he have a conversational way about doing it?
More. He delivered very well. Let me put it
what
this
was his
way.
topic?
Well, the topic, and you just mentioned something about that earlier, forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness, yeah. We just did that. We just did forgiveness last.
And he did a beautiful job of that.
And what was his takeaway on forgiveness?
Well,
can I change that? Let me ask.
I'm going to put it in a simple way, okay? I hope. Basically, when you forgive someone, you're releasing that person, basically. But it also helps you to know that you have released that other person. You release them because that person is filled with guilt, and even though he may act like or she may act like nothing's going on, once they're released of that guilt, it's a burden lifted from their shoulders. They've been forgiven. But once they've been forgiven, though the one who does the forgiving is also blessed, if you want. You know, one of the things people say to me, how could you possibly forgive so-and-so for doing this, this, and that? Well, the thing is this. You may not remember, but you'll always forgive. Forgiveness is the important thing. You may keep the memory of what happened, but by the same token, forgiving is what counts. If you're able to forgive, it helps him and you.
You have to remember that forgiveness basically is a choice. Some people don't make the choice to forgive.
You use an interesting word, because if it's a choice, it removes the feelings. So sometimes you don't feel like forgiving, but you've made the choice to forgive. It's like the choice to love. That's what we're asked to do as human beings. We have to love one another. It's a choice, not the romantic feeling of love, but it is a choice.
Well, thank you so much. I want to remind the good people listening today that coming up this week, of course, Ash Wednesday coming up, as we get ready for Easter Sunday, which is on April 21st. Next week, we will discuss the recently completed 2019 Synod, plus much, much more. We'll see you next time on the Father Joe Podcast, brought to us by Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln on 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield.
I look forward to seeing you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.